Recording in progress. So how are you, brother?
Very well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
You were looking well.
doing my best.
Oh, bearded one.
Yeah,
I don't know how you cope with all that hair in this heat. And it's hotter up there, isn't it?
it's kind of like a. It doesn't really. It doesn't really make a difference. I feel like, doesn't. I don't feel my face is hot with this beard. It just kind of sits there, and maybe if anything, it creates a shadow for me. Makes it a
Is
little.
it?
But it's never. I've never
Bit,
felt like it's
bit of
hot.
white neck.
If I don't have my hair up in a ponytail, then that feels hot on my neck, and I start sweating real easily. But
Yeah, you're making fun of me now. I have more chance of making a ponytail on the end of my chest. Yeah, so it's been a while since we've invested some time in having a conversation.
yeah.
Lots happened, lots more is happening. Um, but we have no idea what's coming next.
So we're basically in the same place we were before.
Yeah,
Only it's now.
only possibly through research a little bit deeper in the knowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you got anything in particular you want to have a chat about?
A lot of different things. I don't know. You know, I sent you a couple of videos of Mark Devlin
Yeah,
talking about the nature of reality, his God videos.
yeah,
And that's been the biggest inspiration for me over the past few months, just contemplating those topics, stepping back from the day to day, the stuff that's happening in the world and tracking the moves of the elite and that kind of stuff, which was a lot more of my focus in the past.
yeah.
And I think it's been highly motivated by this past year that I've been in this romantic relationship, because for the previous 10 years before that, I was alone. I wasn't really looking at relationships much. I was just focusing on the research.
Yeah.
And so there were plenty of experiences I had that were testing me on a personal level, but I feel like my focus was more on a larger stage, like the world level, and focusing on how Wetikó is playing out on the world stage versus in my personal life. But now, this past year, I've been seeing it play out in my relationship, which is just something I haven't been exposed to in a long time. And before I was, this is before the last relationship I was in, before the one I'm in now, was more than 10 years ago. So that was before I knew a lot of the things I know now about Wetikó and the interpersonal relationships, the way that Wetikó works through interpersonal relationships. So I feel like this past year, it's been an application phase of a lot of the things that I learned. And
So it's been more a year of practical experience rather than theoretical research.
exactly, yeah. And just
Cool.
seeing, you know, I think it's natural for the ego as we move along in our work to think that we've figured something out more and more. And then we have experiences that show us like we don't know anything
Yeah,
compared to
right.
what's
Come
known.
on, bring it on then. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So
got it. I know now. And all of a sudden your legs are taken from under you again.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you're left in a gibbering heap on the floor
yeah.
with
So,
only yourself really to pick yourself back, go again.
yeah, yeah,
Um, I think the key there for me is having the ability to premeditate it, or at least get a feel or a taste for it coming my way.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
but you're right. We know that the ego is um, such a powerful modality, if you like, in the human psyche, that it's the trickster, isn't it? It'll have you every time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and we've talked about this in the past that the key is awareness, but to live in absolute awareness every minute of every day is virtually impossible, isn't it? Unless you have the luxury of sitting under a tree, you know, doing your uh, mantra, your oms and your whatever, and
Yeah.
not doing anything else. We haven't
Right.
got that luxury. But for me, the experience on the hoof, as I call it, for me is far more valuable
Yeah.
because you can read and meditate, but it's not changing very much anyway, is it? Especially when it comes to other people that you care about.
Yeah.
Sat there doing a mudra or min for 18 hours a day doesn't put food on the table for the majority of people.
Yeah.
That's the reality that the majority of us live in, isn't it? But there we are.
Yeah.
You might pick up a bit of background noise. The room insulation is not very good here, so there's a couple of blokes just gone in the rooms in the
Oh,
hallway.
okay.
So you
I didn't
might
hear
pick that up.
I didn't hear it on this end, but I was going to say the same thing about I've got this is the first time I've done a conversation with this audio setup. So if there's any feedback, let me know. Because I've
No,
got
it's perfect,
sounds good to me though.
and it looks like a perfect location you found yourself. Nice bit of elbow room around you.
Yeah. Got a little desk here. It's a huge everything about my reality has been upgraded, including the challenges. So
That's part of the course, though, isn't it?
it is one of the things I was sort of coming to terms with and realizing over the past month was that there were my life in the apartment in San Diego for 10 years was wonderful. The best 10 years of my life up till that point. And
Yeah,
so what I realized recently was that my ego or whatever you want to call it, Wetikó, was making it so that I wasn't able to appreciate completely how every aspect of my life has been upgraded from my previous situation because my previous situation was the best 10 years of my life. So, and it only kept getting better throughout that 10 years. Yeah, I had challenges. Yeah, I had difficult things happen, but just across the board, my life continues to get better and better as I walk this path. And
yeah,
so I realized that there was some resistance to this new situation that I'm in because something inside of me didn't believe that it was possible that this was real.
yeah.
It seems like a dream. And how could it possibly be that I've gotten this big of a leap in my reality? And so I was struggling with that a little bit. I mean, I worked it out. I was able to
Yeah,
accept
it,
it's real. I'm here.
yeah,
But
and you're at the stake.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's been maybe the most transformative year of my life, and definitely the most challenging. A lot has been added to my plate that wasn't there a year ago, and most of it is things like being a dad that I'd have no experience with up until last year, basically, other than unless you count cats, which most people don't, as experience for fatherhood.
No, I don't think there's any comparison there, Pat. Is there?
Nah, not much. One thing I would
Yeah,
say that the cats have been teaching me all these years that's useful in parenting is how to pay attention and how to stay focused on the child and not get distracted and go do other things because at least with a 3-year old they want your attention and they know the moment that you're diverting your attention and looking at something else and they get upset. And so I feel like I'm able to keep that attention where other people get distracted more quickly. But that's something that I feel like the cats taught me because I just was focusing on being present with the cats. And you call it meditation, call it whatever you want, but it was something I was practicing a lot. when I was alone. I feel like it translates a little bit.
Yeah, funny enough, I had a conversation with a guy yesterday, and he was complaining about his kids, and I just turned to him and said, it's funny, isn't it?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we spend the first 2 years of their lives teaching them to talk and walk, and the rest of their life telling them to shut up and sit down." But fatherhood, there's no real handbook, is that?
Nah.
And the way I look at it is, as you know, I got twin daughters, and to be able to identify them independently as energies is quite a difficult thing when you're bringing them up through the early stages, because you collectively do things for them together. Yeah. And it's only when they start developing their own character and personality then you're able to invest that specific time in whatever strength or weakness they have,
Yeah.
But to maintain the independence with twins was quite a challenge for me. But it didn't get me anywhere. They haven't spoken to me now for 3 years, so the
How old are they now?
they are 24 this year.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I still don't want to talk.
No, there's still that. Well, the divorce proceedings weren't complete until the final hearing was January this year, and it all got sort of sorted by April. But I'm still looking over my shoulder for the minute. So, I've reached out to him, to no avail. I'll keep trying. That's all I can do.
Yeah.
But one thing I won't do, well, two things actually. I won't beg, and I won't sell my soul for it. So it's up to them then, They're
Yeah.
grown women.
Yeah.
We'll park that subject now.
What's that?
I said we'll park that subject now.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
Yes, just enjoy it. Just
huh?
enjoy it. Just enjoy the experience.
Mm.
No matter how many curveballs you're thrown, just roll with the punches and find that little bit of joy out of everything. Like,
Yeah. I'm fascinated by the experience, because for many years I was convinced I wasn't going to have any children. Didn't think I was going to be in another relationship. Thought I was going to stay on my own, but I definitely didn't see children in my future. So it's
so are you considering one between you?
yeah. I mean, we're not really leaning one way or the other about it. She's had 3 children already, and so
Okay.
she's interested in having one more, perhaps. It's funny that we talked about your daughters, because I like the idea of having twins, a boy and a girl, one of each.
What do you think it is? A supermarket? Yeah.
What's that?
I said, what do you think it is? A supermarket?
Yeah, right.
Yeah?
Like you got a choice, right?
Yeah. One of them.
Yeah.
And
One of
chuck,
those. One of those.
yeah, and if you
No,
have
I
this
know.
third one, you get 25% off.
Exactly.
But for what it's worth, if I had my time again this lifetime, I would never have children. Never.
Okay.
Never. Because one of the conclusions I've came to over the last 6 to 8 months, but certainly this year, is it's our fault. We're responsible for reproducing the factory of next human beings that they need to feed off.
Yeah.
So because, through research and what have you, and trying to find a solution while trying to live a life you know, because we are individual beings, and the only way that we are going to stop the collective psychosis is by collectively doing it. And because the potential for that seems to be further away now than it was for me 5 years ago, the only conclusion I can come to is that we stop reproducing children, because then they've got no batteries to feed off. So when you look back at it and then realize that, oh my God, I did that. I contributed to bringing twins into this world, handed them over to the system to do with as they want. And it's what they do. You know that. Yeah. So right now, as I'm sat here, I would never have another child.
Yeah.
Because when I was going through fatherhood, instinctively certain things like the MMR jab, the education system, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was wrong, but I didn't know why he was wrong.
Mm.
So when I eventually worked out what was wrong and how wrong it was, the damage is done, isn't it? You know, the girls were 14, 15, 16, you know, and I'm researching. It broke my heart, Pat. When I realized what they are doing to our children, it broke my heart, because I knew I couldn't stop it as an individual. And I also knew I was responsible for presenting them into the education system to be brainwashed to become the next tranche of slaves. And it's such a depressing perspective, but it's a fact, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I've tried to work out a way to stop it. I can't work it out, but I'm not the brightest of sparks, am I? You know, I'm an individual energy, you know, bumbling along, surviving, researching, talking. But nothing changes in the morning. Up I get, shower, shave, off I go for another day of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that I'm doing that to myself now. It's a conscious choice now, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And when you pass that knowledge and experience on to your children or your siblings or whatever, and they can't find the strength to activate it or even work within it, you know, that's when you face them with the massive mental health issues. Because if you're not careful with the way you self-manage yourself, there's a massive potential you're going to go over the edge. Because there is no coping mechanism from having the truth. This is why a lot of people do the classic fingers in the ears. I don't want to know, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. Because once you know, you can't unknow.
Mm.
So, you know, you're very limited then to who you can approach and discuss anything that's outside the normal parameters. I was on holiday earlier on, only about a month ago, met some lovely people from Suffolk in England, and you know, we've become very friendly, and it stimulated me, because the male out of the two, I won't name any names because it's not fair, but he's watched both our previous conversations, and he wants to know, you know. So when I get opportunities like that with people, I grasp it with both hands to a point where you can hold in hands and support and put your arm around his shoulder. But at the end of the day, he's a very intelligent human being, and he'll make his own decisions as long as he remembers that discernment is the key. Now, that's another thing that's sort of come out in the last 12 months, that one of the ingredients in the poison that was distributed, one of the ingredients in it has the ability to switch off the part of your brain that depends on discernment.
Mm.
And this is where you're seeing more and more people being vacant. Now, at the moment, you seem to be far more detached from society compared to where you was a year ago or whatever when you was in the apartment. So you probably experience it less and less, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they just people, you know, this zombie apocalypse and all that. You know, I know where people are coming from there, and when you see the behavior of these people, you can understand why, because they just not they're not there. You look in their eyes. There's nobody home.
Yeah.
So, have we got a spare acre of land there? I might pop over and knock a log cabin up.
Yeah. No, it's a huge, I've been aware for a long time of the effect of living in the city versus living out in the country, but it's different game altogether to actually experience the difference, to live out away. There's one Wi-Fi field that I'm exposed to, the one in this house. That's it.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus the apartment where there's 20 or more overlapping Wi-Fi fields,
yeah.
plus the smart meters for the electricity and all the other just
That's,
electricity,
that's
just
the
more.
actual energy of the human beings as well.
On top of that, yeah, and especially
Yeah, you've got
considering
all that
electricity.
bouncing around everywhere.
Yeah, so
You
it's
know,
it's medicine. It's literally medicine just to be out here. I don't have
so
to do anything.
I bet there's no light pollution or nothing, is there?
A slight amount. I'm not far enough away. I can still see the pollution from San Diego over the top of
Or the glow?
mountain. Yeah, but you can definitely see the stars out here. It's wonderful. Yeah. But that's something I've been thinking about lately, is it's literally just medicine. It's a medicine and I don't really know exactly how the medicine works. I just know that being out in nature, something I've known for a long time. I think everybody intuitively knows it, that you get out into the mountains or you get out to the ocean. It's somewhere where you're away from all the people and all the noise.
Yeah,
And
well, you know what the problem is because you lived in it for 10 years.
yeah,
You know, the antidote for that is how you're living now.
yeah,
You know, you've got more control over your own energy. You're being less affected by the energies of others. You've got 3 human energies in that plot of 1 acre. You've got the energies of the cats, and that's it. Do you know what I mean? Any other energy is invited into your environment, isn't it?
yeah, yeah.
We won't talk about the invisible demonic energies and what have you. Let's just enjoy the fact that you've got some breathing space.
Yeah. Yeah. But to go back to something you were saying a few minutes ago about kind of the inevitability of a rigged game when it comes to raising children, and I wanted to just, because I've been on the one side of the fence for a long time of just I would never want to bring a child into this world because the world's so messed up, much less than the reality of powering the system by bringing more batteries in, right? But there's always been the other side of that, which is that one of the ways that we could potentially flip the script is by populating the world with intelligent, awake individuals that were never part of the system because they were raised outside of it. And that is something that I've had more direct experience with it because I've I've got coming a 19-year-old daughter now, a 14-year-old son, and a 3-year-old son. And the 19-year-old and the 14-year-old are in the system. The 3-year-old is on the edge of it. He's being exposed to it, but he's not in it yet. He's going to kindercare, like kindergarten,
Yeah.
pre-kindergarten. Uh, and so he's being exposed to the system in that way. He's exposed to the system through technology, YouTube videos, that kind of stuff. But we have the opportunity, and my wife is on the same page with me, that she doesn't want to send him to school. We want to raise him, school him here, out of the system. And there's really no way to predict what kind of result that'll yield in terms of the human that he'll become.
It's a gamble, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
I went through exactly the same thing with my pet.
yeah. And I mean, it
You
seems
know
like,
what?
it doesn't really matter what path you take. You're still being here inside of this realm is part of the system. So
Yeah,
you can like
yeah. It,
double down
the,
and go full on into the school system and that part, or you can stay out of that system, but you're still in a system. And, Wetikó doesn't care where you sit in the system as long as you stay in the system.
yeah. But when you make that decision collectively with your wife, you make that decision knowing what you know.
Mm.
The difference being is the majority is still fast asleep. And
Yeah.
I'll use my daughters as an example again, and I shouldn't really. They were brought up with as much awareness as I had as I was becoming aware. So when I figured out that the education system was a massive contributing factor to the way that we are managed and brainwashed and directed and controlled, whichever way you want to look at it. Both my daughters, when they were looking to go into employment, both became teachers.
Mm.
Albeit, I'm very proud of them. They both teach in the medium of Welsh, which is something I was passionate about because I never got the opportunity. And they reckon it's the second hardest language next to Mandarin to learn when you're an adult. So
Wow.
I did try. And my daughters just used to laugh at me. So the point I'm making is, even with the awareness that I shared with them, they still chose to become instructors of the very system that's designed to control us. But I had no option but to allow them to make that decision themselves for themselves. And I remember one of them saying to me, well, Dad, maybe I can change the system from inside. I said, it's a very noble thought, very noble thought. So let me know how that goes. Yeah. Because many, many, many teachers, professors, very educated scientists have all tried to change something, knowing that the system is wrong.
Yeah.
And we are, a living embodiment of the fact that it never succeeded, because you know what happens when you get to a certain point. It's like
Yeah.
whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pop your head up a bit too high and off you go.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why, I won't hold back anything with these discussions with you, regardless of who we expose ourselves to, because as far as I'm concerned, not enough of us are honest enough or got the courage enough to open up man to man, man to woman, blah, blah, and have these real, raw conversations about what's really going on in this realm, as you quite rightly said. Whether the earth is flat, round, square, upside down, who knows, who cares? It matters not. And, the fact that they tell us through the education system that it's round, well, in my opinion, then it must be square.
Yeah.
Because that's how deep the lie goes.
Yeah.
It's inversion at its best, isn't it? We are taught the education system, which is technically an inversion of everything that's true. That's how deep the lie has got to be to maintain the illusion that
Yeah.
this existence that we are living is reality.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not, because there's a far better potential reality available to us. If only we all knew that.
Yeah.
Because we are the power. They know that we are the power. And the only way to stop them exploiting our power is to switch the power off. And we could do that together. And they know that as well. That's why the division is so important. It's one of the oldest tools in their armory, divide and conquer. But they have to divide and conquer us on a daily basis. What's the sum total of our existence? We get up for work on a Monday morning. You work your 8 to 12 hours Monday. Same again Tuesday. Same again Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They give us 2 days off. On the Saturday, we'll go to the local supermarket to stock up on the poor nutrition that they allow us to have. We might go to a garden centre or a Walmart or an Asda over here or whatever. Saturday afternoon, pick up some other consumable shit that we don't need. Go and plant some plants in the garden that die because you haven't not around to tend them properly. Yeah. You fill yourself with alcohol or cannabis on Saturday night, so you forget the week you've just had. You recover on Sunday and preparations start again on Monday. That is the sum total of our lives. And during that 12 months, they allow us to travel maybe for 2 or 3 weeks maximum. Not without identification, though.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure you come back, otherwise your job won't be here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that level of fear and stress is another major contributing factor to the illness. Why there's so much ill health.
Yeah.
There's no money in healthy people. We know that.
Yeah.
There's no money to be made. They want us to be as ill as possible, just barely strong enough to drag your ass out of bed on a Monday morning and start again. And that's for the majority. Same as there's no money in peace. That's why in our lifetime, I'm a little bit older than you, we've never known peace. There's always been a war somewhere. Always conflict, always a fear, and always the money to be made from both sides. And who benefits? It's never us. I'm a depressing bastard, and
Well, it's interesting because that's definitely the life that I was living, what you just described, and then my life changed. I'm still in the realm. I'm still in the system. I'm still participating, and I'm giving my power in various different ways just by going to Walmart, because I'm still supporting that store, versus not doing that. So there's ways that I'm still investing my energy into the system. However, my life has become different than the way you just described the average life is, over the past 12 years. And I attribute it to a spiritual aspect of life, because that wasn't present in my life before. And once it became present, that's when things started to change for me. But it's definitely possible to start walking a different path, because I've
I
done
know
it
that.
and you have too.
I know. No,
So,
and I've still got mine to come. There's been a lot of noise going on this year.
yeah.
It's mellowing out now, and there's a clear plan in place, and it ain't going to manifest itself. You can meditate on it all you like, but unless you make them physical moves in the direction of where you want to go, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I keep teasing Nicola. I keep saying to her, "You wait till I get my inheritance. You wait." And she just looks at me and laughs. But I've convinced myself that my inheritance will be the way of life that I want to end this lifetime. Not having to drive a minimum of 2 to 5 hours just to earn money, because that's what it is. But fundamentally, what we are talking about here is the majority of people.
Yeah.
They have to allow the odd one or two to slip through the net to convince other people that, yes, there is a possibility of another reality. But go on, be my guest. You try it. You try getting out the system. Go on, we want to watch you.
Yeah.
And well, you know what happened in Wetikó. They developed their own loving, harmonious community. And it was labeled internationally as a cult. And it went in and wiped them all out.
Yeah.
Men, women, and children. And no one's ever been held accountable for it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because it seems to me that the answer to getting out of the system is to stop participating in the system. But at the same time, if we come together in some way to participate with each other outside of the system, then the system comes and whack-a-moles that. So the alternative is to collectively stop participating, but each of us individually doing it on our own, not as an organized group trying to do it against the system or build something up while the other system's still there. That it seems like we've just got to, each of us individually have to just stop participating and do whatever it is we feel we need to be doing, but stop trying to get other people to do it with us and just allow those people to figure it out for themselves. And however long that might take, however many eons that might take, or it might happen now, because the system is squeezing everybody so much more as we get closer to the end game or whatever, So
but we know there's a powerful agenda going on in the background, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what that consists of. We don't know what's going to happen next. So, like you quite rightly said, tomorrow the majority could wake up. It could be a collective awakening.
Yeah.
And the game's over. We can live and dream in that hope, and then I'll be happy to have as many children as necessary.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say about my personal choice not to procreate now, is my previous procreation with my twins, and the fact that there's no contact now, that contributes to that as well, obviously, because I did my best with them. And at the drop of a hat, so it seems to me, then contact ends. So I think to myself, that was 19 years of my life that I invested in two human beings to nurture them and give them the best direction I could. Something I never had. They were loved by me, they were looked after, blah, blah, blah. So that has a strong influence over my, not wanting to have children now, but sometimes too much about the system as well.
Yeah.
And we carry a lot of burdens, Pat, when you think about it. The deeper we go down the so-called rabbit holes, I don't like that cliche. Cliche is so boring, but I'll use it for the benefit of this conversation, right? But the deeper we go, the more we find out. It's like, oh my God, you can't discuss that with people. Dumb, deep underground military bunkers where they're farming children for their organs and to be sexually abused and the adrenochrome and all the rest of it. But the facts are the facts. No matter how much you try and polish a turd, the truth is a turd, isn't it? Rather, the turd is still a turd, rather. No matter how hard you polish it.
Right.
You can't sugarcoat the truth. But this information is out there. They allow us to have this information. And that's not even going anywhere near the dark web.
Yeah.
That's something I will never do because I don't need to. But if I needed to, I'd have no problem having a look.
Yeah.
But I don't need to go that deep to talk about these dark things that are happening while we're all sleeping soundly through the night.
Yeah.
But at any given time, and it's happened, and it still happens every day, the authority, can come and smash your door down and drag the 3-year-old out. Yeah? Never to be seen. With no explanation, no reason, and that's the level of fear that a lot of people live in. Mm-hmm. But we can't live like that because it'll just kill you from the inside out. So, but like I said, we carry a lot of burdens knowing what we know. We carry a lot of shit around with us.
Yeah.
And then we still expected them to function as a normal human being. Work, provide. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And laugh. And there's no better medicine than laughter, as we know.
Yeah.
But, it's a tough call.
Well, that's definitely a good segue into one of the things I wanted to talk about because, as I mentioned before, Mark Devlin has been doing these videos about the nature of reality, and he claims to not have picked a side, or he says he's just asking questions, and he's not making statements about what he believes is true. He's just asking questions about what's true, and the answers that keep coming back for him point to negativity as or evil as the base frequency of this realm, that it's an evil god that created this place, whether it's the original creation or if it was hijacked, whatever the perspective is. There's no way to know that, but that he believes, well, he doesn't know. I guess he doesn't believe. He's just saying that it keeps coming back. All the research and all the questions he asks about what is the nature of this reality is that keeps coming back. It seems more and more convincing that it's that the base nature of our reality is one of evil and suffering. And he uses the natural world a lot of the time as an example. He says that, when you look out there, all of life suffers, and that it seems to be the basis of all of the animals, that they have to constantly be afraid of being eaten and torn apart by something. And this is one of the things that I take issue with that he doesn't seem to address, is that he seems to be cherry picking the difficult moments in an animal's life. But if you look at the entire life of the animal, say an animal lives for 5 years and 30 seconds of it is the end of its life where it's being torn apart. And throughout the day, that animal might react to a predator and run away and be, in a fear response. But I would argue that the vast percentage of that animal's time spent living is not in a negative frequency. It's either in a neutral frequency or a frequency of positivity or love or whatever you want to call it. It's hard to say with animals, but it's not just a hell world where everything's terrible all the time out in nature. Is that there is at least a balance, if not leaning towards a positive frequency, as if you're going to add it all up and say, what do we got? Probably it's 50-50, because that seems to be what everything is about in this reality, is balance. So there's equal amount of evil to match the good, but I would say there's a little bit more light than darkness to make the system actually work. Because if it was perfectly balanced, there would be seemingly nothing, no movement. So there has to be something motivating.
I disagree with that. I don't think that is anywhere near balanced for a start. So if he was going to say, yes, you need the light to make the system function, right? So, but what we've got to accept is there are a lot of human energies who will step over the man dying on the floor. Right? So that, to me in itself, that one action is evil. For one human being to completely ignore the suffering of another by stepping over them and moving on. And these are the people that the darkness uses. I call it middle management. Right? So say you've got 50% dark. You've got 30% then who can be considered dark grey, and then 20% light. So when you're 80% that's being controlled by 50%, that's being controlled by a committee of 300, that's being controlled by five families and controlled by one entity, we're on a bit of a losing streak, aren't we? Because that's the way that I'd equate it, right? Because you offer the majority of men an extra £5 to £10 an hour to carry out a task that you're not prepared to do yourself, but they are. That's the level of evil and control that the darkness has over the greys to control the light. Because fundamentally, I think by nature, the majority of people are good people. But then when you're convinced that you've got a short window of opportunity during your career to make it, they'll do just about anything to get whatever they want.
Yeah.
On a material level, right?
Hmm.
And that's not my opinion. That's a fact. That's exactly what's going on in this world now.
Hmm.
You've only got to go somewhere where there's more of an indigenous influence over the population now, and you introduce an iPhone into that population. Well, they'll kill you for it just to have the experience of that technology.
Hmm.
But that's on way over on the other side of the spectrum, right? So let's just go back to the animal thing. Now, you know as well as I know, whatever Mark Devlin says about, the animals and what have you, it's a completely different energy. It functions on a completely different level to a human being. So they are the embodiment of fight or flight, which is what we have become. When you think about it, not us personally, right? But the majority have become is fight or flight. So yeah, I will step over that dying man to get that extra £10 or whatever it is. Yeah, fight or flight.
Hmm.
And it's difficult then to have a conversation about these things without going back to the how powerful the evil mind virus is. Because all of these scenarios taking the animal kingdom out of it, right? Because Wetikó doesn't affect them. It's only the human consciousness that it affects, from what I understand of it, right? I might be wrong. But what I'm saying to you is, right, everything all these scenarios that we talk about are Wetikó based. They have to be. Greed is one of the most fundamental elements of it.
Hmm.
But, maybe Mark Devlin needs to do a bit more research into Sabbatian Frankists and maybe Wahhabism to have a deeper understanding of the energy that's being used through that cult, because a cult it is, right? Because the basis of their belief system is the more heinous the crime that you can commit against another human being brings you closer to God. But their God is not what's described as the one true God, is it?
Hmm.
It's the imposter, it's the embodiment of the light God, but it embodies darkness rather than light, and the majority of people know it as the devil or Satan. Say the words. I'm not afraid to say the words, but that's what Wahhabism and the Sabbatian Frankists worship.
Yeah.
So to, sexually abuse a newborn baby that's still attached to the umbilical cord in their belief system is one of the highest accolades. So maybe Mark Devlin needs to look at that a bit deeper, because that is what's being practiced, is currently being practiced behind the scenes all over the world. It's not secular. It's not limited to one region or one country. The hidden hand is everywhere.
Hmm.
And they'll portray them as the Jews, the Palestinians, the British, the Americans, this government, that government, this army, this army. It's all part of the game for them. They present us with a scenario every day, but we know there's a completely different scenario in operation that's far more powerful than any of the scenarios. And that Committee of 300 are the enforcers that make sure it happens. So yeah, I've watched some of his stuff, and I can't remember what I watched the other day with him, and it was wasn't he involved in a couple of videos where they were trying to expose David Icke as a paedophile?
I don't think so. Well, not that I've seen.
Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize, for saying that connected to his name, but it was an interview. It was a couple of interviews. It was.
Well, he's
But it
definitely
was
a fan of Ike. Devlin, I would say is Ike supporter. Like he always credits Ike with
Oh, he
reading some
wasn't.
of his books was the beginning of his journey.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to expose him. He was involved in call it fact find, whatever you want.
Mm.
But I might be wrong. It might not have been him.
I don't
But
know. I didn't see any videos with Devlin talking about Ike related to pedophilia. I haven't heard anything about that, but I would say that Devlin is familiar with the Sabbatean Francus and the Wahhabi. Like I think he probably is. That's more support for his perspective.
Yeah.
That everything is evil. That the world is evil. That God is evil. But just listening to his arguments, and I bring up nature as an example, is that I feel like he's cherry picking to support his perspective, because I don't think he's looking at the whole picture of the life of an animal to suggest that the animal's entire life is one of fear and unhappiness. Right now, for example, I'm looking at my cat running around playing. Granted, cats like to go hunt and kill things, but at this moment, the cat's just playing, having fun and enjoying itself. And that's, at least for my cats, because they don't live out in nature, that most of the day they're chilling, having a good time, enjoying themselves. They're not in a state of fear. They're not in fight or flight mode. They're in what I would call a frequency of love. Two of my
Yeah.
cats, woke up this morning, started cleaning each other and licking each other, and that's a frequency of love, not fear.
No, I know. But
So
as soon as a predator comes into the field,
yeah, they got to run.
then that energy changes, doesn't it?
Absolutely, but only for that moment in time when the predator is present. As soon as that predator is gone and the threat is gone, they stop existing in that frequency and they go back to the base frequency, which I would argue is love.
Yeah. So in that respect, we've got something to learn from them.
Absolutely.
Because the majority of people, if they were threatened, that becomes a lifetime of revenge, and it just keeps the energy alive.
Yeah, and that's where I think humans are different, is that our egos keep that going.
The scenario with a dog or a cat is temporary, and they don't hold no grudges. Once it's done, it's done. They move on.
Yeah.
And human beings would do well to take a leaf out of their book in that respect.
Yeah.
Once it's done, it's done. Let's just move on.
Yeah.
When I reflect back over this lifetime and the wrongs that have been done to me, in my lifetime, if I went looking for revenge, I wouldn't have time to do anything else. You just got to let things go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But as an example, when I woke up this morning, I had an horrific night last night, nightmares and blah, 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 blah. And I woke up this morning, I was in hell of a shape. And I'm away working, and I thought, there is no way I can do this tonight. No way. Because it's taken me the best part of today, whilst making my money for my slavery, to focus and process everything I went through last night. So up until I messaged you about 2:00 this afternoon, it was touch and go for me whether I felt in a right enough frame of mind to be able to give you the time you deserve, and that's every day. Yourself, you wake up, you process, you get on with it. And all them bad thoughts and the bad dreams last night and the nightmares are all past history for me in my lifetime, but it's still there. And when you wake up to it, it's live, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we do very well to take a leaf out of the animals book.
Yeah.
But, the energies won't let us. Will it? Because them thought forms that come into our mind during sleep state or whatever are not our thought forms. The same as the when you're awake thought forms, come into your head. That, but how many people don't know that they know theirs? That it comes from a outside influence. Now that takes when you know that it's coming from an outside influence, it's tough. It's tough to process and deal with. but God forbid the ones that don't know what's going on. And this is again a contributing factor to the level of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is affected with mental health, everyone. On different levels, admittedly, but they're affected. They must be.
Yeah.
And that's the collective psychosis, isn't it? And what we want is collective harmony. I just come up with that. I like that.
Collective harmony.
See if we can patent that and make some money off it, should we?
Right. Right. Well, and that's what, like I was saying earlier, it's counterintuitive that potentially collective harmony through humanity comes from us being harmonious internally, not with other people necessarily. You know, there's
You have to come to terms with being in harmony with yourself
with yourself
before you can offer harmony to a third party.
Yeah.
You have to.
And it's possible. It's possible that collective harmony doesn't actually involve harmony between humans the way that we think it should. It actually could be something where each of us is individually harmonious and in a state of positive energy.
It's
And
a
everyone else
natural
is
benefit.
too.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing their own thing. And sometimes there's collective things, but it's not because of the fact that we're in a collective harmony that we're harmonious, right? It's individual harmony.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? Because once we become in harmony with ourselves, right? I call it the triquetra. So it's left, right brain, and the heart. Mm-hmm. Right? They have to be in harmony. Because otherwise, we need the left brain, we need the right brain, but the decision making should come from inside, right?
Yeah.
So you've got a negotiation going on up here, but the ultimate decision is made from you. Yeah. So you become harmonious with yourself. You just knock us off. And then, by natural virtue, everyone becomes harmonious. Because everyone is harmonious in themselves, in their own solid state, if you like, then that's just going to influence others, isn't it? But they, the controllers, know that as well. So they have to introduce dis-ease after dis-ease to keep it disharmonious. Mm-hmm. Because the minute we switch on to being in harmony with ourselves, that's when the game starts changing. Because at one time, a long time ago, we were living in harmony with ourselves. Until some bully came along and started changing things. You know? Mm-hmm. You know, I'll quote the Jack D. Forbes book again, where, you know, the tribe that he came from, which I forget now, it was basically if there was 12 members of the tribe and one member of the tribe started exhibiting traits of Wetikó, then our one member of the tribe was pushed out. You know? The problem you've got now is you've got 12 people in the tribe, 11 of them are affected by Wetikó, and you've got one in harmony. You don't stand a prayer, do you? And that's worldwide again now. Yeah. So it's taken them so long to raise the level of control to where it is today, and it's going to take us at least that long to reverse it or stop it overnight. If I could stop, if I had the solution to stop it overnight, Pat, I'd have told you when I first met you, and we just started a campaign. The answer is so simple. If you manage to really talk to people eye to eye, and get them to realize that what they need and what they want are two completely different things. Because we don't need the majority of what we've got. I'm talking in general terms now, Yeah. You've got a lovely place per there, you've got a lovely acre, and there's no reason why we all can't have one. Mm-hmm. Because in enough bloody land, the problem is it's owned by them. Yeah. Whether it's the British royal family, Bill Gates, Committee of 300, whatever it is, the land is owned by others. They don't want you living in harmony. They don't want you self-sufficient. They don't want you with an acre around you with no light pollution. They want you in the city, stressed, noise, conflict, negativity. So you've done well to get yourself where you are, you know? You lucky bastard. I'm only jealous in the nicest possible way. It's twat for them. There's no snow. Yeah. I need my snow.
That's funny.
Yeah. I will come out one day.
Please do.
I will. I told you that when we first met. I can't believe how quick the time has gone again.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has been a bit of a roller coaster the last 4 years for me, you know. It's all good now. Couldn't be better, actually.
Happy to hear
So we covered that devling aspect now. Anything else you want to talk about?
that. Yeah, well, it occurs to me that, just kind of popping back to Devlin, he's convincing himself of this perspective because like you said earlier, everything seems to be an inversion in this realm, one way or another. If you flip the thing over almost 100% or 180 degrees, whatever the thing you're looking at, whatever the topic you're looking at, usually you're closer to the truth. That's not necessarily on it 100%, but when you flip something over, because of the nature of everything being inverted, you're closer to the real truth of the situation. And so
it's a good starting point, though, isn't it?
I think so. That's
one of the to flip it on its head, look at it then, and then start from there.
Yeah. So when doing all this research, it seems obvious that the world is controlled by evil people, and there's an evil agenda, and there's an evil entity, and all this evil. So it seems straightforward to come to the conclusion that God is evil, but that's not flipping it over. If you flip it over and perceive God as at least benign, if not benevolent, then reverse engineer from that point to where we are and try to find the reasons and the sense, the perspective that allows for this realm to make sense how it exists currently. If the outcome, if the end of the story is one that's a positive outcome, and that the whole point of this simulation or whatever it is we're in is to get darker and darker and darker and darker until something happens, whatever that might be, a global awakening, I don't know, or everyone dies, because if everyone dies, then the people that are left will be pretty harmonious. So, I don't know.
If I'm one of them that dies, at least I got to have a rest.
That's true. Well, maybe. I don't know what happens after we die. Might get a lot busier.
But the way I look at that, right, is, I don't do the religion thing and the isms, this is one of the things that I don't align with Paul Levy, is the Buddhism thing, But that's his bag. That's what he wants to do. Crack on. And each individual has got the God-given right to do whatever they want to do. Yeah. Now, when it comes to us judging or determining whether what they do is good or bad, or good or evil, then that's a massive quagmire, because one individual naturally will say, well, the age of consent for sexual intercourse between a boy and a girl should be 21. And then you got the guy stood next to him saying, well, I think it should be 16. And then the guy next to him, the other side, saying, well, I think it should be 6. They're 3 very different active opinions, because the paedophile organization in the UK called PIE, P-I-E, I can't remember what it stands for, but the Elizabeth, who's just died now, wherever she's gone, her private secretary was a member of PI, and they campaigned openly to reduce the age of sexual consent to 6. Right? So they obviously believe that's right. Now, my perspective is I don't agree with that at all. Yeah? But I also don't agree with the guy who says 21. Should be 21, But you could go on and on with that. But the point about the God thing, right? Whether this guy Jesus existed or didn't, I don't know. I weren't there. So I'll remain open-minded about that. The point I'm coming to is, right, they get the blame for everything. It's either Jesus' fault or it's God's fault.
Mhm.
But in actual fact, if we're big boys and girls and pull our big pants on and take responsibility for our own actions, you will find that it is down to us. We are the ones who are guilty for allowing the state of the world to get into the state that it's in now. We are culpable. By proxy, by virtue that we've actively been part of it, we are responsible for ruining a beautiful environment. 100%. We've allowed this to happen. We've allowed that to happen. Everything that's happened to us, if we're honest with ourselves and each other, we are responsible for. And while we keep pointing a finger outside of ourselves at God, Jesus, Bill Gates, Queen Elizabeth, all of them, while we continue pointing our fingers, they'll continue to do it. But until we stop pointing the finger and take responsibility collectively for allowing them to do that to us, it's never going to change. Because we can only stop it by stopping them, stopping the allowance. We give them permission. It's like giving an abusive parent a big cuddle and a present on a birthday for raping me and beating the shit out of me every day. Because that's what we are living in, is an environment and a society where we are giving permission to big, powerful, abusive parents to do whatever they want to us every day. Because we haven't got the courage, individually or collectively, to say, stop. It stops now. We want a different way. We deserve to be living a different way instead of existing under this jackboot, the jackboot of society that's just hovering on the back of everyone's neck. That potential pushing that boot down on the back of your neck so your face is pushed into the ground. That's how the majority are living. Because he'll take away a little bit of whatever they give him. It's heartbreaking. And that's what's difficult when you reach that level of awareness, because they depend on us to provide the next tranche of slaves. By wanting to recreate a life out of love, which we fundamentally do, because that's what you want. You want to make a baby, you want to love it, you want to nurture it, you want to bring it up, protect it. Yeah. And what's the first thing we do? We sign the birth certificate, and in ownership of the child over to the authority, no matter where you are in the world. That's the first thing. It's very symbolic. We hand it over to the authority. And then we hand the babies over for the MMR, and off you go. And someone said to me the other day about, I challenged them on the MMR, and she said quite flippantly, well, I've had it, I'm all right. And my mother's had it, and she's all right. My father had it. He's all right, but he's dead now. Blah, 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 see. And it took me back. I thought, oh, I've never been challenged on that one. And I spent the next week contemplating the statement. But the conclusion I came to was, right, because no matter where you are in the world again, you're under the authority, and you will present your child for them poison jabs, right, within the first 2 years of your life, right? So I realized the reason why everyone convinces themselves that, yeah, well, we're all right, don't we? Well, I'm all right, she's happy, he's happy, he's all right, I'm all right. There's a blanket suppression of the potential of the human beings. And this is how they've done it. So if 95% of the newborns get the MMR, and maybe 15, 20% of them exhibit a reaction, right? That's put down to other things. But the majority is suppressed collectively at the same time. So you're not going to notice you.
Mm.
Our potential is limited at a very early age because we have no idea what's in them injections, really, do we? But it's not there to enhance our intelligence or our physical strength. It's bound to be the opposite, inversion. They tell us it's protect us against diseases that they introduced into the human herd. It's classic, Pat. They introduced rubella, measles, mumps. Oh, and here we are. Here's your vaccination that we've just invented. For years prior to that, they would have been researching how they can introduce it into the human herd and come up with the antidote for it. Exactly the same as they've done with COVID-19. Then vaccines appeared out of nowhere. There's 7.8 billion people on the planet, and all of a sudden, in 6 months, they had the vaccines. But we know that Bill Gates patented the vaccine in 2016 because that's recorded. But people don't want to talk about that. But this is how calculated it all is. So to have a mass suppression of the human race by introducing an MMR jab at 2 years of age, before 2 years of age, they're queuing up with newborn babies. Get my jabs in first. We have no idea. No one can answer what's in them.
Yeah.
They can't. Because if the mothers knew what was in them, oh my God, you wouldn't have to worry about the men raising arms because the mothers would. But fear controls that element as well. We know that. And it's heartbreaking. And I did it. I did it with my twins. I challenged it and challenged it and challenged it. And then by the time I got myself in the space in my head to research it, I cried for days, Pat. I physically cried for days that I did that to my own children, not knowing what was going on. I can't change it. I'm responsible for doing that to my own children, suppressing their potential, but I allowing the authority to put a poison in them that I didn't even question. And it was my ex-wife that bullied me into that. I won't blame her. I'm man enough to accept it on my shoulders. I allowed it to happen. I allowed her to bully me, and I allowed the pressure, the authority in the system to make me a quease and allow it to happen. It wouldn't happen now. It wouldn't happen now, so I wouldn't have another baby. What I'm saying is I don't beat myself up about it anymore.
Yeah.
But it certainly challenged me into finding the reason why they've got away with it. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe it's a blanket suppression of human potential. If everyone's given the same dose, right, the majority are going to be suppressed. The potential is going to be suppressed at the same time in the same way. We'll have the odd one or two. Look at Robert De Niro. He's been campaigning against it for years because he's 100% convinced that his children both became autistic, one within 6 days and one within a month of having it. But the other thing is, Pat, right, that I've been trying to process in my own mind. From what I can gather, they ramped up the MMR in the early 1970s, in this country anyway, right? And it's only now that you're seeing the number of cases of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Huntington's chorea, autism, ADHD. Should I go on? Because when you ask anyone of that generation prior, and even those of that generation, which I am, I didn't know anyone with cancer. I knew 2 people in my childhood. And now it's 1 in 3. In the 1980s, I distinctly remember it was 1 in 35 in the 1980s. And now it's 1 in 3. And where's the progress of humanity then? Nobody's stopping and asking, well, how was that then?
Yeah.
I never knew anyone with Parkinson's. People, yeah, they lost their mind a bit when they were in their late 80s, 90s. But these labels, I'm not saying that the names of the diseases was about. What I'm saying is the number of cases of everything, Pat,
Yeah.
gone through the roof. And people are dropping left, right, and centre since the COVID poison.
Yeah.
And no one's asking questions about that either. This is how entrenched we are in their illusion. How many kids in your class in school had ADHD or autism?
I mean, if that was before ADHD was a diagnosis, right? In the 80s, I was
Let's not
I
call
w- I would have been
let,
definitely diagnosed ADHD in the 80s,
yeah,
but that wasn't
yeah,
a
but
diagnosis back then. But I wasn't on any
what,
drug as a result of me being a pain in the ass kid, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
questioning everything, right?
Yeah. Well,
I was, every class had a class nut that I was the one in my class.
yeah.
They strapped me down somewhere now. Questioning geography never made sense to me. Questioning history, what? What do you mean? And they beat the shit out of you with a cane over here, right? Every cane, dap, beating, punch, slap I ever had in school, I asked for 100%, right? And I never went home and complained about it.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to you is now, over here, you've got classrooms dedicated to these conditions that have been created by them. So you've got 35 to 40 autistic children in one room down the other end of the school.
Mm-hmm.
But no one's asking why. And when you ask them why, those who are involved, they say, well, I don't really care
Yeah.
how it's happened. I just want to be here to care for them.
Yeah.
What a bizarre attitude. They're all your children. You've got 4 children, and every one of them's on the spectrum, autistic. Well, I wanted to make a lovely baby. But somebody's come along and compromised the immunity of the mother and father before they've had a compromised child. The child's immunity has been compromised as well.
Yeah.
And then when you go back generations, their mother and father, 2 of them, had the MMR, so their immunity would have been compromised. So everyone's immunity has been diluted up until the point now that you've got freaks running around. And I mean that in the loosest possible term, right? But you can see where I'm coming from. They're given a label, then they're diagnosed, then they come up with a drug. Over here, they give autistic children and kids with ADHD Ritalin.
Yeah.
It's amphetamine based. I know what we'll do. We'll give them some amphetamine. We'll speed them up a bit. Yeah? So you already got a nut there running around the classroom. Have you had your medication? No, not yet. Have some more. Oh my God. They should be sitting them in a corner with a bomb. I liked it. But again, it's the same as the endocannabinoid system, the human DNA. You have a conversation with an adult about that.
Yeah.
I say, well, hold on a minute now. I'm not saying that we should all be sat in a corner puffing on a bong or a joint. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying to you is look at the evidence. Look at research the endocannabinoid system, the human DNA. We are supposed to be ingesting a percentage of it every day. Our immunity is looking for it. This is why we are so stressed. It's part of the reason why we're so stressed. And it's part of the reason why they made it illegal. Because if we have a look at the endocannabinoid system, whichever research tool you use, have a look at it and see the evidence laid out there.
Yeah.
You haven't got an endo beetroot system or an endo pizza system. You've got an endocannabinoid system, which is a part of the human DNA. We are supposed to be giving it to it every day. Not a dog shit burger from McDonald's that you'll shove in your kid's face, but then you'll think that I'm trying to encourage people to be junkies smoking dope every day. And it's not about that. It's about being honest and being realistic about what is right and what is wrong. But if you look at the evidence out there for the endocannabinoid system, you can't hide from it.
Yeah.
You'll still go and buy your kids a McDonald's Happy Meal. Yeah, but once you know, you know. And I can tell you now, if I could get away with it, I would be using it medically every day because I've got a compromised immunity. So I should be taking something every day to satisfy my DNA, my immune system. But we're not, it's illegal. And we also know who controls the black market. So because it grows naturally, it can't be patented, so they can't make money out of it that way, can they? This is why they introduce it through the black market. Who benefits? So instead of giving the kid an MMR jab, give him a third of a leaf of cannabis in his salad sandwich.
Yeah.
There we are. Yeah, it's getting more and more difficult to find not someone who will align with you entirely, because I don't want people like that in my life. I want to be challenged. It's good to be challenged, you know, because it keeps you on your toes for one. And instead of saying something, it makes you, you know, do the art graft, do the research, do the discerning, do the meditating on it. And one way or another, same as the answer to that challenge I had with the MMR, you know, my whatever comes through and gives me the information I need. Eventually it'll come through.
Yeah.
And then I'll do my work on that. And then I'll share it. But I wouldn't share information like that over this medium with anyone if I wasn't confident enough to say, well, you know, I've done the work. This is where I am. But then as far as I'm concerned, that's right for me. How it is for you is how it is for you. But for me, that's it. And it's part of it. It's part of the solution. And it's only because I got a drive and now they test over here for cannabis as well as Class A.
Mm-hmm.
I lose my license instantly. And, you know, and that's another reason why it was introduced, the new law. Because, you know, even if I had a third of a leaf as part of my daily diet, there's probably over a long period of time enough THC in there to be traced through a test, you know?
Mm. Yeah. That's an interesting question, because when you eat the leaves for nutrition, the THC is bound up as THC acid, and you need to have that heating to decarboxylate, is the nerd term, to take the acid group off of the THC to make it active so that you feel a psychoactive effect. So if you're eating, you know, take a cannabis plant that's growing in the ground, take a leaf off of it and eat the leaf, you don't get a psychoactive effect from it because the THC passes through your body as THC acid. So I wonder, just as you were saying that, I wonder if the piss test picks up THC as an individual molecule, or if it's picking up, would it pick up THC acid, for instance? You know, would you...
I'm not sure. I've never been exposed to it. But I think they take a swab from your mouth.
Yeah, but I'm just curious if the test would come back positive if you're eating it we're just decarboxylating it to get a psychoactive effect.
Well, you go first and try that, right?
That'll be tough because I'm constantly decarboxylating.
Yeah, well, I'm constantly driving, so
Me
something
too.
has to change for me.
My friend made a joke in the past, something about someone asked him about driving while he's smoking. And he's like, driving and smoking. He's like, driving and smoking, it's just called driving to me. Doesn't have any bearing on my reality. I'm smoking. So
It's just driving.
it's just
Don't
normal
complicate
driving.
it.
It's actually I'm
Yeah.
probably a better driver. I'm more attentive. I'm not so
Brilliant.
distracted.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know if it's something that I'm just something about my nature, but I don't accept the premise that the evil in the world is uh, the end. It's the tool. I think it's the tool. It's what's being used to create the inspiration and
It's the protagonist.
yeah, it's the protagonist to get us to wake up.
Yeah,
So it's actually a good guy.
Yeah, you can't argue that, because whether you point the finger and blame God, Jesus, or Satan, regardless of what the label is, right? Somebody is trying to get us to react in the right way.
Yeah.
Instead of falling for the illusion that's paved out in front of us.
Yeah.
That's the big part of the problem. And the problem comes back to the individual. There's no point saying I go to work because my wife tells me and expects me to because I'm raising 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
But we all do it. Because we all are convinced through the conditioning of the system that it's the right thing to do. Because fundamentally, the majority of human beings are good people. And they want to be respected. They want to be valued. They want to be looked up to. And to do that is to provide things. When you provide the generation you're bringing up with things, coupled with love and empathy and compassion, I'm not saying. But eventually they're drawn more to the things and they want them earlier. They're not prepared to graft and save and buy. They'll go 16, 17 years of age credit. And they're in a credit trap and they're there forever. I explained to someone the other day about the word mortgage. I said, do you know what mortgage means?
Yeah.
I said, well, it's 2 words. It's 2 words that are Latin, if I remember right, or Greek, or a bit of both. Mort is death. Engage is pledge.
Yeah.
It's a death pledge.
Yeah. Because you're there your whole life.
All your whole life.
Yeah.
Because once you've paid your 25 years, you probably remortgage after.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you add another 10 years on that death pledge.
Yeah.
And they're like, is it? I said, well, don't take my word. Yeah. Go and read a book and find out. But it's remarkable how hard and for how long human beings will fight to get that mortgage.
Yeah.
Because they want that house. I'm having that house. One way or another, I'm having that house.
Mm-hmm.
If it kills me, I'm having that house.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. And they get it. And then they get 2 cars on the drive for mom and dad to drive back and forth and do the football and the rugby and everything else. They're both on finance. Yeah, credit. And there's your life over. And that's when, just coming up to my 50th, if you remember, we had this conversation and I realized I was going into the last third of my life. Mm-hmm. Potentially the last 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't playing that game anymore, knowing what I know. So it's a breath of fresh air when we have these conversations. And I have conversations with like my new friend from Suffolk. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And every day, no matter where I am working, right, every day I will have a conversation about something. And I always leave them thinking about something. And that's all you can do, is call it a spark of inspiration for them or whatever it is. But it certainly satisfies me because, like I say to people, you can't unhear what's being said. Because when I'm talking to you and you close down from this potential alternative reality, I'm not talking to you. I'm negotiating with your soul. My soul is talking to your soul. Because your soul is inside you screaming at you. Listen, listen. How do I know? Because I was there once. We were born poor. Society gets a grip of us. Authority conditions us. And that's all we are doing. We're not teaching each other anything, Pat. We're helping each other to remember what we already knew. What we came here knowing, we just remember it. We're helping each other to remember. Nobody's teaching anyone. You know, these gurus, they bullshit us. Yeah, especially the ones who like the big money from it. Bullshit us. Because if the majority of them are honest about the collective psychosis, Wetikó, if they were honest about it, Pat, their income stream, their revenue stream would stop overnight. Look at psychiatry. £100 a session, 1 hour. Yeah, but you gotta book a minimum of 10, mate.
Right.
Yeah. Where do I sign? Sign here. I'll see you next week. Parasites, charlatans, right? I don't care who they are. I don't care how many books they've written. Because if it doesn't mention the collective psychosis, the book is bullshit. Because it is the antidote and it's the answer. And we've talked about this. It is. And this is why it's so powerfully guarded. Because the minute the cat's out of the bag, everything stops. When people realize their mortgage, the finance, the greed, all of the elements you can think of, they take you far away from harmony.
You know, that's an interesting point because it seems that a lot of people who are exposed to the information don't immediately stop. And there's a willful ignorance that stays there sometimes
Why
for
would
the
they?
rest of their life.
How else? They'll have to get off their asses and do a proper job if they want revenue. I don't know. These people can sit there and pitch their wares, right? Knowing what they know, because they do it because they live a comfortable, guaranteed, steady income of the plight and despair of other human beings, Pat.
Yeah.
And we go back to the man who's willing to step over another man, because that's what psychiatry is. They'll sit there writing their notes, probably writing a shopping list. Yeah. Oh, ding, that's your hour. See you next week. Yeah. They have no conscience. Their conscience is being controlled. Because otherwise it'd be different, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Well, there wouldn't be anyone to step over. There wouldn't be anyone to step over in the first place if the program.
That's right. That's right.
So
because if you're honest with the client or patient, whatever they call them, and you explain to them the truth, and you explain to them the only way that they're going to deal with this is through doing their own inner work, to come to terms with their own demons first, to find their harmony in themselves, which, by the way, I'm still looking for, right? Because it's dynamic, Pat. It'll be forever.
There's no
manual.
manual.
Never stop. There is no manual.
There's no manual.
But when you start looking outside yourself for the solution to the problem and the conditions that you've got yourself into, you never heal. Because the first step of the healing, for me, is looking within and saying, do you know what? I did that to me. There's no point pointing at your best mate who like to jack up heroin or snort cocaine every night. Yeah? and get smashed off his tits smoking green because he doesn't work and he don't have to work because he's a drug dealer, whatever it is. There's no point pointing the finger at him or her or that situation. My father left. He beat my mother up, blah, blah, blah. Grow up, grow a pair of balls, reach down between your legs and rediscover them, look within, and start healing yourself. Do the graft. And that's how you'll get closer to yourself and discovering who you really are, instead of allowing external modalities to take you here, there, and everywhere on this quest for healing. It's absolute bollocks, and you know it is. Because it ain't out there. It ain't out there, because out there is where Wetikó is, with the mortgage and the 2 cars and the finance and the this and the that, and climbing the corporate ladder. It's all Wetikó based. So don't look for the answer to that out there, because it'll just take you and shake you around like a rabid dog would. But once you become aware of that, you pull your awareness back into yourself, and you can breathe and relax and try and forget all the noise that's going on around you. That's where I find myself the most at home. Every time. And that, for me, is getting stronger and stronger. So I'm receiving more and more information. They're not downloads. I'm not going down that bullshit avenue either. Right? I had a whole book downloaded, so I wrote it in 22 days. Bollocks. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen for people. If it does, best of luck to them, but I think it's bollocks. So a whole book downloaded. But I'll get bits and bobs of information, which, I won't go there, straight out with there. Because I don't trust myself a lot of times, Pat. Because I'm still influenced by a lot of outside influences. And the collective psychosis is a massive influence. So when I get what I think is information, it'll take me a while to process that information until I trust myself to disclose that to anybody. Because it is so easy when people love you and respect you, especially your opinion. You can't go, not without doing the real work. I won't go and copy and paste information without analyzing that information first and being content that I think that's right. Because when I came across the endocannabinoid system, it took me a while to get my head around it. It took me a while because it's such a massive, massive resistance to it, isn't it? Worldwide. It's so easy to label anyone who's caught with a joint in their mouth. Well, he's smoking that shit, me. Well, listen to him. You don't know what he's talking about. He's smoking that shit, man. And these are the people then you're going to negotiate with. So I just write it down on a piece of paper. Do the work. Have a look yourself. It's part of what they do to us. Their sole objective is to weaken the human being to a point where they will become absolutely compliant no matter what I say to them. And no matter what I do to them. I don't say the word hate, right, often, because it is so powerfully dark. But one of my most hated reactions to anything is when someone says, well, it is what it is, isn't it? Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm like, no, well, it is what it is because you're making it is what it is by saying it is what it is. Let's not accept it as being it is what it is. They say, no, I'm not accepting that. I'm not accepting that behavior. I'm not accepting this abuse any longer. And I'm not working 40-hour weeks. I'll work Saturday and Sunday for the same money. Come on, I'll go first. They've got all the money. They've got all the power. They've got all the control. What have we got to lose? By finally standing up and finding them balls we've got, holding them tight and saying, yeah, come on, then. We are the change that we want to see. Instead of writing it in books, because there's no proactive, physical proper physical resistance, is it? Because I've got the answer for that as well. Violence will never change anything. They want us to be violent. Yeah, they want us to be violent so they can shoot us, because they don't care about that either. And that's become evident. Passive resistance, right? Gandhi tried it and it worked, right? Even though there's, a lot to say about Gandhi, blah, blah. But the actual concept of passive resistance is the answer. And when you explain that in normal language, if you want, instead of using big words, I don't like that shit. It's just sit down. What do you mean sit down? Or you just don't do anything? You don't get up on Monday morning. You don't go to your job. None of us. And you change it that way. And the first thing has to go is the governments, then the royalty in this country, and then you can break down the system behind that, because these front people are just middle management. We know that. The nucleus of the problem, and they are nothing on their own, because that's how bullies operate. You divide and conquer them entities, they're nothing on their own. Their power can be neutralized just by the numbers. And the numbers are us, and they know that. And they're aware of it, and they're expecting it. And this is why everything has been put in place very quickly over the last, since 2018.
Yeah,
but
I
we
appreciate.
still have the power.
I appreciate that perspective. I think I would use the word non-participation versus resistance, because resistance to me is still participation. Because if I'm resisting something that they're pushing on me, then I'm still providing something for them to push. But if I step away and don't participate in the whatever energy they're putting out, they have nothing to push against, and the energy just dissipates on its own, because
non-violent passive
I'm
resistance.
I'm not participating. I'm busy over here growing my own food and whatever on my detached
smoking your pipe.
Whatever. Yeah. Like I'm not participating. And that person's only the person that wants to push, say it's a government official, whatever. It doesn't matter how programmed they are. It doesn't matter if they're next to Wetikó in the line. If they're still human, then they have the ability to change their path as a result of something they're exposed to from the outside, seemingly from the outside, even though I would argue it's not.
But bearing in mind that they are extremely profiled mind. Yeah?
Yeah.
So anyone who's in uniform, carrying a gun or a baton or whatever it is, were already extremely profiled.
Yeah.
So it's harder to break them down.
Absolutely.
But when I talk about, I agree with what you're saying, right? But when I mention non-violent passive resistance, the scenario I create in my mind is you sat in your living room in your own house.
Yeah.
You're on your Xbox or watching whatever crap, or even listen to music, whatever. And you don't go to work. Neither does next door. No one in the street, no one in the town, no one in the city, no one in the region, no one in the country. Where's the resources? What are they going to do? They're going to bang every door down,
right,
and drag us out and drag us to work with a gun to the side of our head. Do your job. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And the people that were coming to the door with the gun to force you to go somewhere are also sitting at home.
Yeah.
So there's no one to enforce anything, because those people be enforcing or participating.
Yeah. This is how they tap into the psychology, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you put them in a uniform, immediately they become authoritative. They think they're all powerful. Put a bulletproof vest on them and give them a gun. God help us. Well, this is why they're trying to take all the guns off the Americans. We haven't even got them. And the Australians. If they want to take our guns off us, Is it because it's for our safety and our children, or is it because in case we shoot them
Mhm.
in defense
Yeah.
when whatever comes? Otherwise, they'd leave us alone with our guns, wouldn't they?
Well, I would argue that it's both, because in a future reality where we're all living in harmony, then guns don't need to exist in the first place. So it's
We're way off.
true. It's true. What's that? That's a ways off. Yeah.
I said we're way off, love.
Yeah. Uh, it's true that guns are dangerous. It's
Of course
true
it is.
that it's possible for a child to injure themselves with a gun. Absolutely. That's a great reason to not have a gun in the house. 100% agree with that. And at the same time, it's also true that if I have a gun in the house, they're less likely to succeed in coming to get me because I might shoot them. So it's both.
Yeah.
They're
But,
using, both excuses to get what they want, right? Or they're
right, but
using, rather, they're using the
child,
one to get what they want. But both are
but a
true.
child can injure itself by opening a cutlery drawer.
100%.
You know,
And it's
that's
more
down
likely
to
more likely to do so in that form than to open up a gun and somehow load it and injure themselves, right?
that's right. You shouldn't have access to the cupboard for a start.
We should not have covers. Definitely no one should be
But
allowed to have covers because they're super dangerous.
when I've had some injuries in my life, right? And one of the worst I ever had was opening a corned beef tin.
Right? Holy shit.
11 stitches in a finger. I could not stop it bleeding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. Don't give Neil a corned beef tin.
That to me, that comes back to the premise that everything bad that happens in a person's life is, if inverted, can be seen as the thing that motivated them the most to do something different, to grow, whatever, right? Like all these things that
Yeah.
happen, all these things we're trying to protect our children from, the children need to experience these things, even if it kills them, potentially. And the reality is I have no ability to control anything that happens in the life of my child, because I can get distracted by Wetikó for 2 seconds. It's all I need, 2 seconds, and look over here and fucking kid falls off the couch and dies. Breaks
Yeah.
its, right? Like
And it
no
happens.
Yeah, happens every day.
Just to close off that corned beef conversation, I don't buy corned beef in tins anymore. I buy it ready sliced. So I learned from that.
You learned. Hey, you learned from your tragedy.
Listen, buddy, it's just gone 7 o'clock over here, right? So if you don't mind, can we wrap it up for this session?
Of course, brother.
We've been on for about an hour and a half now, so I think that
Neil, time doesn't exist when I talk to you.
no, I know that,
I
but
love
my
it.
belly's
Thank you so
rumbling.
much.
No, we'll I'm gonna grab myself a bit of supper now and get my head down, and we'll do it again soon, right?
Absolutely, man. Let's do it again soon. Actually, let's find a time soon instead of just kind of putting it indefinitely, because it might be another year
No, it won't be another year, right?
for both of us.
You
Because I'm crazy. Like I have to actually recognize that in myself, as I haven't produced anything with my art in a long time because I'm just choosing to put my energy into other things. But I want very
it's not
much.
fault to.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's do it at the mutual convenience, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get more out of it.
Absolutely.
All right, buddy.
I love you, brother. Thank you so much
All right,
for the time.
buddy. I love you too. I'll speak to you soon, right?
Sounds good. Enjoy your meal.
Hey, I don't think you need to edit any of that either.
I
But I
love it.
leave that to you.
No, I don't. Nothing that sticks out for me.
No problem. Let me know when it's done then.
All right. Thanks, Neil.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Take care. Bye.